Well, hello and welcome to the first ever taping of the Movie Power Rankings show. This is our November preview show, and I'm joined today by our guest Mike Romick, who is a critic on the site for Movie Power Rankings. And
Hello,
today,
Gabe.
Mike, how are you today?
Great.
And today we're just going to do a preview of all the November movies coming out and kind of give our explanation as to why they are where they are in the power rankings. So, without further ado, let's start with number one, Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. What are your thoughts initially going in?
Well, preview looks good. Looks like they spent a lot of money, which again they made a lot of money, and same director, Francis Lawrence, and I'm looking forward to it. I wasn't crazy about the first one, but I liked the second one, and Hunger Games along with Twilight, avoids the YA curse, which seems to be prevalent. But no, I'm looking forward to it again.
I have to say, last year's top grossing film was The Hunger Games Catching Fire. Um, Iron Man 3 did make our top 10 list because the box office returns went well into 2014 on Hunger Games. So I had solidified Iron Man 3 as the top spot in the sequels series category. Though, I usually rank that category based on box office alone. So just a little side note on our last year's list, 2013's top film could have been Hunger Games Catching Fire.
And it is a little sad to see Philip Seymour Hoffman, but that won't make any difference to the YA audience. But a different audience will be interested to see him, and I'm assuming he's in the part 2, which of course is that next summer
That
or
would be next fall. I would
okay.
think the same release
another year.
schedule for next year. So, and what do you think about the future of YA going forward? Is it done after Hunger Games, or
I wouldn't say it's done, but they got to be careful. They can't make it really expensive till they find out they have an audience for it. And again, it's like The Giver. I mean, they thought they had money in the bank, and it was, even though it was a very early YA, it was very late to the game. And Jeff Bridges tried to get it made for years and years. And once Twilight and Hunger Games showed there was an audience, but by then it was like people didn't come to it.
The Giver? I mean, I don't know. The Divergent's going to have a sequel, and I think that's crossed over 100 million domestically. But we're getting sequels to those, and I'm sure there's plenty more in the pipeline.
Oh yeah, there are, because everybody's thinking theirs will be different enough, and different and yet the same, that they will cross over.
What makes Hunger Games more popular than The Giver?
Well, I think the timing was right. In other words, with The Giver, it was popular, but very popular a longer time ago. And then you have Hunger Games, the timing was just right, and you had Jennifer Lawrence. I don't know that she was cast when she was a big star, but now she is, and you've, like I said, I didn't visually like the look of the first one. I mean, I was like not impressed, but then I think they made some changes and spent some more money, and number 2 looked much better, and I'm happy to see they're going with that same director.
I think the edgier story and the dystopian future also plays a part. It brings in the male audience as well with the action going on in these films.
Right, because you have a combination, the old Titanic combination. You have the boat sinking for the guys, and you have the romance for the girls, and then you cross over, and you've got a big hit. So, it's good.
All right, moving on. Number 2 in November, I have Interstellar. This is Christopher Nolan's next film, his first non-Batman film since Inception. And I've got it number 2. I think the audience is there for a big sci-fi movie. I know we're both excited about it. 70 millimeter IMAX it's screening in some cities.
And in some cities they're actually putting in the IMAX, they're putting in projectors to show it on film, because Christopher Nolan being a big fan of film as opposed to digital, but according to IMAX it's in 50 locations, and it's like that's the way you'd love to see it, but in 50 locations it's going to be a long drive to. In our case, we figured the closest one was Dearborn, Michigan.
Yes, we're shooting in Ohio. We're from the northern Ohio area, so Michigan was our closest spot for IMAX Interstellar. Matthew McConaughey starring. Hot off of Dallas Buyers and True Detective. This has hit written all over it. I'm thinking though that some maybe our some other films lower on our list may overtake it, like Big Hero 6. If it has the box office and Interstellar kind of doesn't hit those Inception levels at the box office.
Christopher Nolan has a reputation with a certain fan base like James Cameron, where people are going to go to everything he does. And the trailer is terrific. I mean, and they've updated the trailer periodically. My only small concern is I hope we don't have a whole lot of that family farm type thing. And again, we've discussed it that's expands his base. You have a little emotional response that you don't have from like the Batman movies. You don't have that sort of thing. It's a little chillier. But like I said, the main base that he has is not looking for a lot of that. So we just got to be careful. But we're getting into the interstellar part of it pretty quickly.
Yes, you want to get right to that outer space.
Right. You don't want to keep an hour of of a nearly 3-hour running time. You don't want an hour spent with him hugging his daughter, even though some people might like that. That's not the audience. That's what they're looking for.
Correct. Okay, we'll move on to number 3, Big Hero 6 in November. Disney was quite successful with Frozen last year.
Quite successful, the biggest animated movie in history, I would say so.
That's right. Should they expect the same with Big Hero 6, or?
Well, this looks like a little more geared towards boys, but again, boys love. Who knew boys loved Frozen too? Nothing wrong with that. Again, I thought there were a few too many songs, but that's just me. But this is no songs, and again. From what I've read on early reviews and stuff, that it looks great, and they're going to market that. What is it, Baymax?
Baymax is the robot character.
I mean, you can see that Baymax is going to be under all sorts of kids' Christmas trees, and Puffy looks like a marshmallow man. But no, I think it'll do well. I mean, but whether it'll go to Frozen levels, I don't know. But again, it's not a Pixar. But again, will it reach Pixar levels? Mm-hmm. It's hard to say. Nobody, I think, thought Frozen was going to be the success it was. And, at Halloween Trick or Treat, you saw these little girls. How many were dressed as a Frozen princess?
Exactly.
I mean, and the song, huge hit. And so, they can hope for Frozen or hope for Pixar. I think they'll be happy if even approaches
I think
those
it's
levels.
going to be more Wreck-It Ralph territory here.
Which is nothing wrong with that. Wreck-It Ralph did well.
And another interesting note about Big Hero 6 is it's a Marvel film, but Marvel has kind of taken their hands off of this animated film. They're basically using Marvel in name only.
Right. Well, it's like a Marvel character like Guardians of the Galaxy, where most people hadn't heard of that. But again, Guardians of the Galaxy worked out pretty well, considering a Marvel character that wasn't, everybody didn't know who it was.
Yeah, so I think Big Hero 6 will do the same. The box office numbers should be great.
And what other competition is there for kids? Like the Penguins
we'll talk about later, yeah.
Right. But again, there's not a whole lot of kids out there. And again, people do take their kids fairly regularly over the holidays. So.
And doing the December list, I don't think I saw any animated films coming out in December.
They might have separated out, instead of Penguins and Big Hero 6 coming out so close together, they might have separated those out, and it would have worked out a little better for both of them, as opposed to dividing up the same audience. Not that people won't take their kids to the movies twice, but if they put one in November, one in December, I think that might have been better for both.
All right, moving on, let's talk Dumb and Dumber 2, our number 4 movie in November. Farrelly Brothers are back directing. Jim Carrey, Jeff Daniels are back. This is going to have nothing to do with the When Harry Met Lloyd prequel. That was kind of a failure at the box so
with none of those people connected to this prequel.
Right. So we were talking before, Farrelly Brothers need a hit. Jim
Carrey's desperate needs a hit. The trailer represents what people, I think, want to see, but is it a little late to the game here? I mean, how many years since the prequel, let alone the original, and to come back, has that audience moved on? That audience that, went to that kind of movie now has teenage kids, possibly? I mean, it's like,
Well, you've got a built-in audience for those who loved the original, and that would be people my age. We think of the original as a classic comedy,
right.
And You know, I think a lot of people, and then they're going to take their kids
Right.
to
Well, you know, depending what they hear about how, you know, on the edges of the PG-13 rating it is.
Well, we'll see. And then, you know, the original, I looked up the grosses, made more money than another sequel coming out this month, Horrible Bosses 2.
Which we'll discuss later.
But first, our number 5 movie in November, Foxcatcher, director Bennett Miller, who did Moneyball and Capote.
2 terrific movies.
2 great reviewed movies, and Moneyball did make, I think, $75 million. So I mean, that was a pretty successful.
Recognized by Oscar, and Philip Seymour Hoffman won Best Actor. Again, you know, not let's say movies that you know, big blockbusters, but again, movies that were successful. Because I'm sure Capote didn't cost a whole lot, and Moneyball had Brad Pitt, and you know, again, I don't think it was very expensive, but still, you know, very successful as far as I don't think that either studio regretted releasing those.
And Oscar hopes all over the place for Foxcatcher, which is why I have it so high in the power rankings. You have Steve Carell, you have Channing Tatum, Mark Ruffalo even, and then you're going to have picture and then probably director.
Well, you know, and not having seen it, we discussed that, you know, is Steve Carell a supporting or a starring? I think they're pushing him for starring, but, you know, not having seen the film, we don't know that, you know, exactly where that fits there and how they're going to do it, because Best Actor is very crowded this year. I mean, they might be better off going supporting if that works. So, but again, you know, it's you know, there's lots of movies on our list that are, you know, very adult oriented, not adult necessarily material, but movies that appeal to adult audience, not a YA audience. And again, you know, there's only those people don't go to the movies once a week. They go maybe once a month, and even in the holiday season, they've got a lot of things to do, family things, so they're going to be very picky about what they go to, and will Foxcatcher be it? I mean, there's lots of movies, whether The Theory of Everything and different adult audience movies we'll talk about, that have to find that audience and get them into the seats, you know, just, and they're all very well reviewed, Oscar nominated, but again, you know, will that audience put down their money to go to that?
Yes, lots of competition for Foxcatcher out there this summer or this winter. So number 6, then we're going to move on to Horrible Bosses 2, which we mentioned earlier. The original film, modest success at the box office.
Terrific on video. I mean, people rented it, people bought it, people liked it, and I think that's part of the reason they went ahead with the sequel, was because they had such a response from the video release. But again, you know, was anybody saying, hot diggity, I want a sequel? I mean, hard to say.
As they're clamoring for Horrible Bosses 2, well, you're going to get it. And, I mean, at least the stars are back. Jason Bateman, Charlie Day. I mean, they're going to, you know, try to replicate that
different director also.
Yes, yes. And so maybe, you know, we may not see it as successful at box office, but during DVD release, you know, it may find a home again.
And again, if there's not a whole lot of competition for that kind of comedy, because, you know, that might find the market if somebody wants to go to a comedy at that time, as opposed to going to all these other adult dramas or you know, a kids movie. I mean, you know, if it's placed correctly and marketed, they could come up with a hit simply because there's not a whole lot of competition out there.
So number 7, then we'll move on to Penguins of Madagascar. First 3 Madagascars were very successful animated films, and now we're getting the most popular characters.
Everybody loves those penguins. It's right up there with that scat from Ice Age, where everybody smiled and looked forward to them. So, and again, they have their own animated series on television, and again, that's my concern, is that, you know, everybody loves the penguins, adults, kids, they're funny, hopefully a good story, but, you know, will they take their kids to something they can see for free at home? Everybody's hoping they do, and, you know, I'm sort of hoping they do. I mean, I'm hoping it will be, you know, a funny movie. And again,
this season, I think, is going to prove, you know, there's going to be room for Big Hero 6 and the Penguins.
Oh, yeah. Again, I think it would be better if they moved one further away. But again, I think there will be lots of penguins under people's Christmas trees and everywhere else. Just like there'll be lots of those white puffy men everywhere.
You're probably right there. All right, we're going to number 8, The Imitation Game. This is kind of where we're getting into the Oscar hopefuls and those adult dramas that we talked about earlier. And Benedict Cumberbatch is the
ever-present Benedict Cumberbatch, who's in everything. Yes. And he's voices in the Madagascar, and he voices in The Hobbit, and, you know, he's great. And again, but the movie about the Enigma Machine, which was a much unsung movie, which I like very much, just called Enigma.
A code breaker.
Thing from World War II. But again, the story isn't well known here. Enigma certainly was not a hit when it came out years ago with Kate Winslet. And great reviews, Benedict Cumberbatch, Oscar talk. But again, a story that's not known in the United States that, is that going after that adult audience, will they shell out the money? But again, Benedict Cumberbatch has a following, so I think that's a good thing where people will go to things with him because he normally does quality work. But again, you had the Fifth Estate, which they didn't do that well, even though good reviews in general and him. But again, the audience didn't follow him to that. Will they follow him to Imitation Game? Hard to say. We'll see. But I hope so. I'm looking forward to it.
He has a built-in audience with Sherlock. He's already been cast as Doctor Strange in Marvel's next movie. So I mean. And again, Oscar hopes and Oscar nominations could carry this film, just like any of the others that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, with the Sherlock, I heard they're going to start filming in January 3 more episodes. But of course, between him and Martin Freeman, I mean, they got all these movies, and it's like they got to squeeze in the Sherlocks. But I'm happy they're doing 3 more.
Yeah. Okay. Then we have Rosewater at number 9, Jon Stewart's directorial debut about an Iranian journalist who goes to cover the elections and then is arrested by Iranian officials as a spy because he did a appearance on Jon Stewart's Daily Show.
Again, people have to realize this is not a comedy, even though Jon Stewart's name is attached to it. I don't think the trailer did it any justice. It didn't, I'm looking forward to the movie, but you look at the trailer and it goes, is that going to bring an audience into this? Probably not. I mean, it's going to be lost could it be lost? Again, looking for that small adult audience, and you have, movies like Kill the Messenger and The Good Lie and things that are well-intentioned but never found an audience. And, of course, you don't have a star in this. Gabriel. Right. He's a wonderful actor, but again, possibly with a certain smaller audience, they know him. But again, a bigger star, which again, I'm sure, according to Jon Stewart, might have thrown the movie off. But again, might have brought more people in because it is not going to be an easy sell on that.
Well, Jon Stewart has a built-in audience, and he's been pushing it to his audience already, and so I think it has a chance of capturing more than just that adult audience. I think a younger, the college age students.
Because his audience is very faithful. So you're right. There's a good chance that audience will go. Hopefully, they will like it, and word of mouth will be good. That will make all the difference.
Right. Okay, and rounding out the top 10, The Theory of Everything, the Stephen Hawking biopic, I guess you could call it. Eddie Redmayne generating buzz already for his
heavy-duty Oscar buzz on that. And the movie, people are supposedly awash in tears at the end, and it's fascinating. But, if their kids aren't going to go near this, they don't know who Stephen Hawking is. And then you have the people that know who Stephen Hawking is. Are they going to want to see this? I mean, once again, you have an adult audience that's small that's going to have to find this. And, as we've discussed, the Oscars, it's going to be needing Oscars, and I'm sure he's going to be nominated, but hopefully, many other nominations for that. And then that will, hopefully be a long-lasting thing through the season.
Yes, we'll see. I mean, again, this is another one that could be carried by Oscar nominations, well through the winter season if it receives the awards that we think it will.
Right.
All right.
And the preview's very good. The preview is excellent. I mean, it looks to me like it accurately, not having seen the movie, but accurately represents what I believe the movie's going to be, not like a Birdman preview, which we'll discuss at a later time.
Okay. So that rounds out our top 10. We're going to quickly move through the bottom list of the November Power Rankings. Number 11 is Jezebel. It's a new horror film. The director is Robert Ben Garant, and he's from Reno 911. You would think he would be doing a comedy.
Crazy comedy, yeah.
But instead he's doing this horror film, and the director is a director from 2 of the Saw movies, the last 2 Saws. I did watch the trailer. It's what you would expect from a horror kind of mystery thriller type movie. I think the box office could be there. I mean, not much competition after Halloween for horror. And we'll see where it goes. I don't see any. Again, like we talked about earlier, it's going to do its run in the theater, and then a month or 2 later, it's going to be on DVD and
with unrated footage of 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay, moving on beyond the lights. I'm seeing this getting a bigger push on TV. The director has also directed The Secret Life of Bees and Love and Basketball. So there may be a built-in audience for this movie. I know it's getting a wider release. A lot more theaters will be playing this than like an independent film. But again, this film, may drop in the power rankings because of box office. I mean, that's really what it's going to come down to for something like this. So we'll see what that does. So 13 is a film I'm interested in. The Babadook is Australian horror film. It's been getting some good reviews. Now it's finally getting its release.
It's opened internationally?
I believe internationally, and I think this will be like those limited video on demand and iTunes. You may be able to get the Babadook, and because it may be in limited theaters.
I like the title.
Yeah. All right. 14 is Escobar, Paradise Lost. Benicio del Toro as Escobar. The director. This is a first-time feature. He is normally an actor, and Josh Hutcherson is also in this from The Hunger Games.
Right.
So we'll see. I mean, Benicio as Escobar has me interested. I have this as an independent film. Probably not going to get a wide release. Probably again an iTunes or a video on demand release. But again, I'm interested. Benicio is an interesting actor, and him as Escobar, we'll see what he does with that. 15, The Homesman we were talking about. This is Tommy Lee Jones' second feature film. The Three Burials of Melquiades Estrada is the first film he did, which we both enjoyed.
Oh, yes.
When that came
Good
out.
visual look to it, and the preview for The Homesman looks great. Phenomenal cast. Not only Tommy Lee Jones, Hilary Swank, Meryl Streep. I mean, it goes on and on. I assume some of them are smaller parts, but it looks good. A fascinating story about a guy that's sort of, not tricked into, but sort of forced into accompanying three women who've lost their minds across the West in a little wagon. I mean, I'm interested, but again, you're talking an adult audience that has to find that, and everybody says, there's this Western curse until some movie, breaks the Western curse, whether you have an Unforgiven or a Dances with Wolves or something, periodically something breaks the curse, and then it goes back to, it's a Western curse, but I'm looking forward to it, and I hope it does well.
Well, the reason it's at 15 is it is a Western, and it does have a lot of competition with these adult dramas, and I think The Homesman might be one of these films that has been forgotten about come Oscar season.
Yeah, because they're hoping to give a big push for Hilary Swank, and again, there's not, it's not that there's not quality people to be nominated for Best Actress, but Best Actor, I mean, you could come off the top of your head, there's, as many as 10 people that are, could easily be nominated. There's going to be some people crying like, Tom Hanks was last year, and Robert Redford, that, everybody thought were sure to be nominated and didn't even get nominated. I mean, but like I said, there's a lot of Best Actor competition and Best Actress. Whether you have Reese Witherspoon for Wild and different things. But again, Hilary Swank, 2-time Oscar winner, they might not forget about her. And even if the movie doesn't make business as they'd hoped, she could definitely be in there.
All right, moving on to number 16, VHS Viral. This is
we go.
The third entry in the VHS series.
Now, is that on our Oscar potentials?
No, but again, this is in the sequel series category.
And how they missed Halloween on a release for this? What's wrong with them?
They miss Halloween? I mean, this would be a perfect video on demand or iTunes release.
Right, and they would have made a ton of money. Halloween night, they could have made money on that.
But again, these movies haven't made that much money. The original made $100K, and then VHS 2 21. But that's theatrically.
Made on the cheap, and video on demand probably did really well. Sold to Netflix for streaming, and then if they weren't making money, we wouldn't be seeing number 3.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll be seeing it. Number 17, The Better Angels. A little independent movie about the younger life of Abraham Lincoln, shot in black and white. Be warned, all of you
Daniel
out
Day
there.
Stewart? Daniel Day-Lewis? Daniel Day Stewart.
Jason Clarke from Dawn of the Apes and Zero Dark 30. He's in this. Terrence Malick produces. Looks very much like it's shot by a Terrence Malick cinematographer. Very rural looking, and lots of artsy black and white shots of people and insects and nature. So I think that's
Sex and Lincoln? What could go wrong?
And all right, number 18, we're getting into some documentaries now. Our Antarctica, A Year on Ice. Basically, just another documentary on Antarctica. Didn't do too much research into this, but I'm assuming they're going to tell us that Antarctica's melting, or
And again, that yeah, I believe it was the Antarctica one that Werner Herzog did was fascinating. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Encounters at the End of the World.
Yeah,
I believe.
think.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
great.
and that was great. And if it could be half as good as that, it would be definitely worth seeing.
Then Before I Disappear is a first-time feature for an independent director. Emmy Rossum is the biggest star on that one. Again, probably not going to get much of a theatrical release. It will be video on demand and iTunes and probably on Netflix before you know it too. Happy Valley is at number 20. It's a documentary on the Penn State scandal.
I assume that will not be playing big in Pittsburgh. They won't have the premiere there, or
in
Philadelphia or Harrisburg. Yeah.
Probably not going to do well there. But I think it's definitely a subject that could use more light shed on it.
Oh, sure.
And definitely from an outside source other than like ESPN covering it.
And it's wonder if they got a whole lot of people talking. It'll be interesting because most people were not talking. But we'll see. Right. I mean, it sounds interesting.
21 is Open Windows, the new Nacho Vigalondo film, who did a film called Extraterrestrial and Time Crimes. Here we have Elijah Wood, who is encountered a serial killer, a killer who is using webcams and on your phone, your camera phone, to stalk and kill victims.
Even ours?
Well, I hope not. Again, this is going to be a limited release, and video on demand and iTunes is probably where you'll see it the most. But again, I'm interested. I liked Time Crimes. I don't know if you saw Time Crimes. And Elijah Wood always, he's been doing some interesting things and some horror things, and so we'll see. We'll see.
Probably saved his money from the Lord of the Rings, so he can go on.
He can do whatever he wants.
Exactly.
Sure. 22 is On Any Sunday, the next chapter.
A little late to that one.
I guess it's a sequel to a 1971 documentary called On Any Sunday. It's about a motorcycle racing.
Which was a huge hit in its day. Very well photographed. I saw it. A very dim memory of it. But again, were people craving a sequel? But, we'll give it a shot. Why not? I mean, it's... First one I thought I would have no interest in, and it was very well done.
I mean, motocross is popular. I mean, these extreme sports are popular now, and these documentaries.
Got to reach out to the audience, and
built-in audience,
and a video on demand. In that case, I don't see them rushing out to movies, but those guys come back and do video on demand.
Exactly. Our last two, National Gallery is a documentary on the National Gallery
by the great Frederick Wiseman. I mean, that sounds wonderful. I mean, I'm not sure what the last thing he's done, but he's done a number of incredible documentaries over the years, and I definitely want to see that. I mean, that's an unusual choice, and because he did things about mental institutions and high school and different things. But again, National Gallery sounds great.
Yeah. And last on our list is Saving Christmas, the Kirk Cameron family comedy. I'm assuming it's going to have something to do with the fictional war on Christmas,
and maybe they'll remake it with Nicolas Cage.
That's right, and it will probably tank as well that month. So that wraps up our November preview for the Movie Power Rankings show. You can check out our full list at moviepowerrankings.com, and stay tuned for our October recap. And next month we will be filming our December preview, and also we're going to look back on November and see what we got right and what we were wrong about.
Thank you, Gabe.
Mike, thanks for being here today. And
we look forward to talking to you again.
Okay, we'll see you next time.